And welcome to the Kryptonaut Podcast. Mark Storrs here, hanging out with me as always is
Rob Morphy.
Thank you very much, Robert. And
Krisk.
Krisk.
Yeah.
It was crisp. Now it's
It was
crisp.
crisp. Now it's
Okay,
crisp.
cool. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you all so very much for joining us. Kryptonaut Podcast. Stardust Ranch Part 6.
Yeah.
We are officially at Mothman territory.
We've just matched it.
We're nose to nose, nip to nip with the Mothman.
Oh.
John and the Mothman.
Head to head.
Nip to nip.
Walking down the street.
Walking down the street.
Hand in hand.
Yes.
Oh, like a Pudgy Jake the Snake and the Mothman.
Dude,
just walking and talking.
As soon as you made like the comparison of like not Wilford Brimley,
David Crosby.
David Crosby, dude. Every time I see him now, I'm just like, fuck, dude, it's David Crosby.
Yep, as Rambo.
Oh yeah.
Yes. He's kind of like old John Carpenter now, too, though.
Yeah.
He's got the same
he is.
fucking
He has
thing going on.
the same deal, man, and just yeah. So here we are. We're doing it. Stardust Ranch Part 6, Samurai Alien Slayer.
Oh,
That's
boy.
right.
This is going down. Is one of my personal favorite titles of the pod.
Oh, how could it not be?
I mean, Aliens versus Dogs was a close one.
Sure.
But this is way fucking cooler.
Come on.
I'm way more into this. Let's get started with, as John Edmund's bloodlust reached a fever pitch, the universe blessed the bedeviled rancher with a razor-sharp release for his wrath, a katana which suddenly put him in possession of the holy grail of ufology, irrefutable proof of the existence of extraterrestrials.
It's done. We know
Irrefutable.
it. It's there.
That
I mean-
means not refutable.
Yes.
If you look at the math,
means you can't refute it.
if you look at the math, it's samurai sword, katana equal irrefutable evidence of aliens. It's
100%.
only, I mean, we all know how this is going to end, but it works.
Einstein did the equation first. I mean, it's just called science.
Yeah, it is.
Facts and fucking science.
All right, man, we're back with John. He has his katana, which is gifted him from a junk truck.
Yes.
And here we
With
go.
a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
The Christmas, the sloppy Santa delivers
Yes.
the goods.
Yes.
And he finds his gift from the gods, like Perseus and his helm.
Dude, the baby came through.
Oh, the baby.
When the baby gives you the katana, don't deny it.
No, do not deny it.
No, not
Start
at all.
slicing.
Nice.
John Edmonds was not the same man who'd bought the Stardust Ranch back in 1996. Gone was the stubborn yet sweet-natured social worker who dedicated his professional life to helping others in need. After a decade of relentless physical and psychological torture at the hands of the atrocious assemblage of enigmatic entities who occupied the Rainbow Valley property that he and his wife called home, there was nary a trace of the once kind crisis counselor who'd had a distaste for guns and an aversion to violence. By 2010, John had become a much darker figure. A psychopathic predator armed to the teeth who was every bit as bellicose as the bevy of belligerent beings he was beating, bashing, and battering at a terrifying rate. In short, this good man had been changed, by circumstances beyond his control, into a flesh and blood monster. A creature capable, as horrific as it may seem, of even more dreadful deeds than the boogeymen who had created him. He's going on a journey, and it's into a dark, dark valley.
He's going to start collecting this like gray alien fingers around his neck. And he's like, this one here's Derek. This one right here's Jared. This one I called Tommy. This one's Jason.
It's really close to that. He does actually talk, though I don't mention it in this one. I don't think I'm going to mention it all, but like he wants to get ahead eventually if he ever can get to that point and like mount it.
Yeah, I mean, why? Yes.
At this
why would
point,
you,
I
that's
mean,
the deal.
if you're beating the piss out of him, you may as well just, chop one off and put it on your wall.
Bear in mind, most people probably don't feel this way about him. This is how I perceive his personal journey.
Okay, yeah.
As a man who didn't even like guns to begin with, who was all about just helping people, to where he's at now after like the Rainbow Valley massacre of last week.
Yeah.
He's just gone. And again, through circumstances beyond his control, as I mentioned, he is in a really, really bleak place.
Yeah. It's not looking good.
Whether by fate or fortuity, though he took it to be a sign that the universe was fully endorsing his current crusade of vengeance, John had become the recipient of an ancient weapon, a samurai sword, which he would quickly put to use in his already punishing press against the Greys. His first opportunity to put this seemingly paranormal endowment into action would come sooner than he anticipated, and this chance would come with another animal-centered tragedy. One night, not long after retrieving the sword, John was returning home from a trip to town with his faithful pit bull protector, Daisy, in tow. He pulled into his driveway to see a trio of grays standing outside of his ranch house. They turned to look at the encroaching vehicle and froze like deer in headlights. The creature closest to the side door was carrying a small wand-like object in his four-fingered grip. Back to Roman Candleville.
Oh, man.
John threw his pickup into park and opened the door, but before he could grab her, Daisy dashed out with a barking snarl, making a beeline for the wand-wielding gargoyle. Just as she was about to sink her toothy maw into its achromatic flesh, the alien, clearly anticipating the ambush, aimed the rod down at Daisy and fired a greenish, quarter-sized beam directly through her skull. She dropped with a whimper, instantly killed by the energetic burst. John described the scene on the Jibber Jabber podcast, saying, Daisy saw this thing and she lunged at it. And this gray took something the size of one of these mini high-intensity flashlights, and it reached down and it touched her on top of the head, and literally it just killed her instantly. It was just horrible. I mean, there was blood and the whole 9 yards. It was terrible. It's a horrible, horrible thing to have happened. Which goes without saying.
I mean,
Yeah,
you got to kill the entire race of the Greys now.
You're not far off.
You really have to.
I mean, I don't know if that's just precognition, but I think
Right.
you guys are on the same wavelength.
If you can get a helicopter, helicopter,
There it is.
and you got some Gatling guns, fly to the ship.
Man, more Jesse the Body.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
John couldn't believe his eyes. Furious, he ran into the house, grabbed the katana from its hiding spot near the grandfather clock, and charged back outside. The hideous humanoid was still perched over his dead dog. Without hesitation, John unsheathed the gleaming blade and rammed it right through the murderous monster, taking a fist-sized chunk out of its torso and impaling it against the outside wall. Though, as always, the wounded creature disappeared, John was astonished to see that the grapefruit-sized hunk of flesh that he'd separated from the body was still on the edge of the sword. Numb with shock, John could only stare in stunned silence as the being's viscous, reddish-brown plasma drizzled down the blade, mixing with the dark blood pooling around Daisy's head. Quote, I nailed it pretty hard. It disappeared, but there was a huge pool of blood from the dog, and there was tissue in the whole works from the gray. End quote. John had seen splashes of blood left behind, but never had seen something as significant as the slab of alien flesh he pulled off the end of the blade. Knowing this could be potentially earth-shaking, he preserved it in a mason jar, which he stored in their big old Montgomery Ward freezer next to the frozen burgers and chicken.
Perfect.
Even though they always seemed to resurrect themselves, on some fundamental level, John understood that these creatures were not immortal. If he could carve out a piece of them that couldn't vanish with them, then maybe he could find a way to permanently end their reign of terror. As John continued his case file, specifically on the Greys' comings and goings, he realized that, although they could appear at any time, the bizarre beings made the bulk of their appearances in 72-day cycles. That's the fucking benefit of taking notes. Be an amateur scientist. Study what's going on around you.
Yeah.
Be your own Da Vinci. Invent your own helicopter that won't work.
Yeah.
Your own shitty tank. Become famous long after you're dead.
Yep.
Do it the right way.
Put in the word.
Bad inventions.
work.
Do all the bad inventions. Yep.
72 cycles.
Okay.
Wings that will not work, that will fucking kill whoever tries them, but get famous for it because you can draw like a motherfucker. And basically, he was just a glorified comic book artist.
Hey.
His work is really fucking Todd McFarlane-esque, but I love it.
I mean,
He's a genius.
I want
Ops.
to see him draw Spawn.
72-day cycles. Oh my God, Da Vinci Spawn. Oh my God, put
I don't know if I want to see
fucking
those
AI
hands.
on that immediately. Vitruvian Spawn.
Don't feed the AI machine.
Oh God. All
Someone's
right.
going to do it. I know they are.
He also noted that they did not seem to care for the cold and tended to show up on hotter days and nights. Though for the longest time they seemed oblivious, once the aliens turned up the volume, so to speak, regarding the intensity and frequency of their appearances on the ranch, his dogs also began to sense the Greys and went at them hard. John recalled that Daisy, before her untimely demise, almost put her massive head through a door that one dematerialized through in an effort to kill it. Though his dogs, with the exception of the 4 who died, or maybe 3, after devouring the Grey on the sun porch, didn't have much luck in snagging the alien asshats, his cats were a different story. Oh yeah,
Cats.
pro cat time.
Yep.
To his great delight, John also noticed that they were terrified of cats. Not just Gumby, whom they'd already abducted and returned evidently no worse for the wear, but a pair of Bengal cats that he and Joyce had adopted. The feisty feline duo not only had no fear of the Greys, but would often attack them when they spontaneously appeared inside the house. More than once, John was startled by the sight of a Grey suddenly running through his living room, using its spindly limbs in a desperate bid to pull off one of his screeching cats who had jumped onto its back and dug their claws deep into its thin, off-white flesh. So these fuckers are just chasing
Dude,
Greys,
I can't
hopping
even-
on.
It's like a sitcom.
It really is.
You're watching the fucking news and also Benny Hill theme song. Fuckers
You
running through
can see
like
it just like running
Like
through with like
serious?
that E.T. screech, fucking trying to rip off the fucking cat, and the cat's just fucking it up.
Again, just fucking
Imagine Nick Cage's reaction to seeing that.
Just sitting there
He's
in
in the
chair.
kitchen, at the counter there, the
Drinking,
open door,
yeah.
sipping a beer, doing something, making a sandwich, and then all of a sudden
Alien
he
just
sees
runs by.
"Meow," and he's like, "Fuck!"
I can't even.
That's funny.
It was around this time that John became familiar with the work of Robert Allen Monroe. A former radio broadcasting executive, Monroe became fascinated by his research into altered consciousness. The founder of the Monroe Institute, TMI, which is very famous, he is also credited with coining the phrase out-of-body experience in his 1971 book, Journeys Out of the Body. So he's the guy that really got into this whole thing, like this kind of deep meditation, using your astral self to leave your body, all that kind of craziness. John had discovered one of his books and an array of others dealing with paranormal phenomenon in the plethora of used bookstores in both Phoenix and Buckeye, which, by the way, I would love to have visited at the time, because I'm sure that would be a great expansion for the crypto library, be that as it may. The particular aspect of Monroe's work that John found most intriguing were the parts that dealt with the frequencies emitted by human beings. In his book, Stardust Ranch, The Incredible True Story, John wrote, quote, Monroe zeroes in on the concept of frequencies. He claimed that certain sounds could create a mood in a person, either a very good feeling or a very bad feeling. He also believed that sound was able to create a dimensional doorway through which an aspect of the human being could leave the body. He claimed to have done this numerous times. He came to the conclusion that the human race was creating energies that were consumed by non-physical entities, or entities outside of our time-space frequency. Essentially, he postulated that we were only at the top of the physical food chain, but the food chain went into these other dimensions where aspects of the human beings existed. So here on planet, well, we'll get into it.
Right.
We're numero uno, but not everywhere. John sums up the idea in his book writing, to round out the trans-dimensional motif, let's entertain the idea that human beings exist on multiple dimensions at the same time. The higher dimensions being unconscious to us because of the gross energies of our sense-mind life. The parts of the human being that rest unconscious at higher states of awareness on other planes of existence emit energies of a psychic nature which are consumed by the other beings that do not have physical form or cannot take or manifest physical form without the energy they get from us. We are a source of food at a non-physical level for entities of a decrepit nature that are gravitating toward us because of our low vibrations, our coarse emotions, low vibrations, and our generally negative nature as human beings. We are part of an ecosystem that we do not yet understand. End quote. What John would come to find out when he eventually spoke to more highly evolved beings, which we'll be getting to in our next and hopefully final installment, is that the Manhattan Project and its resultant atomic blast was the equivalent of ringing an interdimensional dinner bell, telling all those hungry predators floating in the ether of time and space that human beings had risen to a world-shattering place in their intellectual development, and that we were now a psychically viable food source. Through our hubris in meddling with the forces that constitute the building blocks of reality as we know it, we had inadvertently gone from being the top of our own food chain to the bottom of someone else's. In short, ravenous higher dimensional beings such as some Greys and other intelligent energetic entities that we might refer to as demons, quote unquote, were creating specific emotional, primarily negative responses in human beings, then feeding off the energy those emotions created due to the fact that we, basically suck. This energy does not resonate off of our tangible earthbound bodies, but our non-physical form, or soul if you prefer, that dwells in the fourth dimension where both these predatory alien intelligences and lost spirits, those still tethered to the earth due to tragic, unresolved deaths and had yet to move on, coexist. Take notes. There's going to be a test later. So even though I tried to encapsulate it there, basically, our souls exist both within our physical form on Earth and in another dimension as a higher self.
Yep.
Okay. And that souls that I suppose make peace with this life go on to the creator or fucking whatever divine existence you want to. But souls like the suicide victim, say in John's house, ones that suffer a tragic fate, get stuck on that same tethered fourth dimensional landscape,
right,
where they are predated upon by these lower energy, demonic alien forces, quote unquote.
Right.
Yeah.
And they eat the energy, but the energy is even sweeter if they can make the physical form sad or angry or despondent.
They're using us like a fast food container.
Ultra-terrestrial protocols, basically.
Well, sad food.
Sad food.
Yeah,
yes.
human beings.
Yes.
Yeah.
The sad food.
Like, no shit. George Knapp was just talking about something very similar to this on the Joe Rogan podcast with Jeremy Corbell.
Really?
And they got into this whole aliens being here, sucking off of our souls. Basically, the whole ultra-terrestrial theory that like Jacques Vallée was talking about. And
Keel and all those guys. They loved that stuff. And I have to admit, we did a pretty fun ultra-terrestrial podcast.
For sure.
I don't remember what number, but it was really fun exploring that theme. But I've always kind of taken it with a grain of salt because I loathe when the umbrella gets too broad. I do not like when everything fits too conveniently. And so aliens and Nessie and everything are all interdimensional beings that are like eating our fucking fear or whatever the basic idea of the ultra-terrestrial is. But I do see some truth in it.
It might not just be fear. It just could just be our aura or our energies, whatever we have kept within inside of us. They're just to feast on it.
Well, it's like fucking Monsters Incorporated, the old Pixar film.
Yeah.
What you'd want to find are the entities that live off your joy and laughter.
Right.
Like your orgasmic energy. And I guess in some way, if you get into like weird fucking, sigil magic and Aleister Crowley shit, I guess there's plenty of entities that feed off of orgasmic energy. I'm no expert in magic. You're our magic guy.
I mean, that's how you can charge a sigil or just finish a magic ritual. But I mean, I suppose, you are using that to achieve an end result. So I guess in a way.
But if basically there was creatures, and I'm just pissing in the wind here, that were just upping our serotonin from a distance because the happier we are about whatever dumb shit we're doing, the better they can, vampirically feed on our higher selves, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah,
it's got to be the dick move.
We're like human veal.
Baby veal.
No, we are
baby
the
people.
We are the veal.
Because our emotions are immature?
Yeah.
Is that the metaphor?
And we're stuck in the crate of our mind.
Oh, boy.
It's an other dimensional meal.
Other dimensional veal.
Because that's where it is.
And then
But it's here, but it's there.
They use social media to keep us tender. The social media keeps us tender and scrolling and looking at TikToks.
Social media has done wonders for these creatures. If they are real, and they do feed off sorrow and fucking anger.
The infighting alone, they're like, thank you, Zuck, we won.
God bless.
Here, go argue about shit that only you two fucking assholes care about. Enjoy.
Fucking Christ.
Continuing, Robert.
To make matters even more confounding, John's posting brought him to the attention of controversial UFO whistleblower and Army veteran Clifford Stone, who claimed to have been affiliated with a clandestine military group tasked with the recovery of downed alien technology and extraterrestrial entities. He also claimed to be able to psychically communicate with the surviving ETs, who, in a concept mentioned briefly in last episode, allegedly helped him to speak with his dead son. One who, to extrapolate from John's adopted hypothesis, must have been stuck in the fourth dimensional way station and managed to speak with aliens that were not parasitically feeding off of human souls who generously put him in touch with his psychically tuned in dad. Remember, the dead, the sad dead, are living with the parasitic aliens, but there might be some non-parasitic aliens.
I forgot that.
I'm just watching.
I forgot they established when we die. We go to.
I'm just watching Chris slowly die inside.
I knew I was going to have to get to the part where it was like a textbook, like a weird interdimensional, like the fucking, like the handbook for the recently deceased.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to be fucking rough going, and I knew I'd be killing Chris a little, but I'm doing my best to make it, to put it in bite-sized hunts.
No, for sure.
It doesn't get any better, guys.
Okay, it's okay. okay.
I didn't expect it.
Listen, we are here.
There are revelations coming in this and the next episode.
Okay. All right, part.
That we're
let's
going to
do
need to,
All right.
to live with.
Part 7, we're doing it, baby.
Okay.
Here we go.
In his book, John postulates that the impact the revelation that aliens can interact with certain souls would have on Western religion would be tremendous and, from their perspective, not particularly positive. As to why the bulk of human/alien interactions are negative, according to John, Stone told him, quote, "We're still too primitive and violent to interact with the vast majority of aliens. The ones that are visiting us are of a lower order, spiritually. Didn't need a pause there. Demons, if you will." That having been said, John insists that there are no demons in a biblical sense, but that the universe is occupied by creatures far more dangerous. He writes, "There are beings out there more frightening than the demons of our religions and far more disturbing and destructive than the rogue greys that terrorized Joyce and I." Which is great. Lovecraftian.
Okay.
Even.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible if it's real. But
Yeah.
in terms of literary tropes.
I mean, are we
ooh,
gonna hit Thetans?
No.
Okay, all right.
No, it doesn't go quite that far.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
I mean, this is. I mean,
But we're not done. So keep your tinfoil helmets on tight, boys.
I'm tight.
Messier still, John stumbled on the work of Jerry Marzinski. According to the bio on his website, Marzinski, quote, "is a retired licensed psychotherapist with over 35 years of experience working with and studying the thought processes of psychotic and criminally insane patients in some of the most volatile psychiatric institutions in the nation," end quote. In his book, John claims that Marzinski, who spent decades working with paranoid schizophrenics in penal institutions, had come to the conclusion that the condition was not a serious mental disorder in which people interpret reality abnormally, but that the sufferers of this disorder are, in fact, individuals whose weak auras have been breached by groups of deceased human beings who now occupy their psyches. To put it another way, according to Marzinski, the voices in the heads of schizophrenics are not auditory hallucinations, but the very real voices of the dead. The one caveat to this dire situation is that, quote, "if the human race can come to the realization this was the case, then the dead would be vacated from their hosts, and that was not the outcome they wanted," end quote. So, that's a plus. So,
Okay.
schizophrenics are being talked to by the dead.
Right.
Not the dead that have moved on, I'm assuming, but the fourth dimensional dead that had
Okay.
tragically moved on that still crave life, as is supposed to, I mean, according to a lot of ghost theory, I'm not even sure if that's what they call it, but a lot of ghost theory, it's like they still are attached to the human plane of existence. They're not ready to go through the door into the light Caroline
Sure.
or whatever the fuck
Yeah.
they're supposed to do, heaven, hell, or something beyond.
Okay.
They just want to be here, and in occupying the head spaces of people with weak auras, they create the symptoms that are interpreted as schizophrenia and medicated,
Okay.
according to this guy with 35 years experience.
I mean, I think we're all
Okay.
shooting this guy a look like, all right, buddy.
So all of this just basically ties in with what's going on in the fourth dimension.
Yeah.
The fourth dimension that is heavily, according to John Edmonds, bleeding into the Stardust Ranch.
Okay.
That's the context.
That I can, okay, yeah, bringing that together now, yes, the fourth dimension is just oozing into stardust.
It's a pretty bleak place, at least aspects of it. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows how vast it is? As we were discussing last week, next week, I was about to say time means nothing. Fucking, I can't understand the fourth dimension any, any more than
yeah,
a
we were
Tesseract or whatever.
we were
But
talking about that.
but still, it probably has a lot of things going on.
Mhm.
I'm sure it exists mathematically. It exists, and I'm sure it's not all, people that died sad in shitbags eating them. At least I hope not.
I mean, geez.
There's a lot of shitbags in this dimension, but it doesn't mean that's the only thing happening.
Right,
Right.
right. Well, I guess we'll see.
All right. In a May 15th, 2020 interview conducted by Dave Scott with John and his co-author Bruce McDonald on Spaced Out Radio, which I used to be a regular guest on,
You
our Canadian buddy, and I think you can even those interviews online
I
somewhere.
think he still has them up at Spaced Out Radio.
Yeah,
just
right on.
Google. Yeah, just Google it. You'll be
Yeah,
able to
good
get it.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, Dave's super awesome.
Oh, yeah,
Super
I
nice
love
dude.
it. Great show, so check it out if you get a chance.
Yeah,
But
for
Spaced
sure.
Out Radio. John claimed that despite their prominence, it wasn't merely the Greys that they were dealing with, and that the paranormal potpourri with which he and Joyce had to contend continued unabated. He claimed that they would regularly walk past floating household objects during the course of making breakfast and just ignore it. Though the negative feelings persisted, the couple realized that the more they fed into it, even something as simple as acknowledging the existence of a hovering water bottle, the more the dark powers on the ranch exacerbated their psychic assaults. As such, the Edmonds became remarkably adept at ignoring fantastic events that would leave others slack-jawed. But even as Joyce and John took these metaphysical manifestations with a grain of salt, there were others in the government and private sectors who were looking at the ranch with envious eyes. According to John, almost every intelligence branch with a 3-letter acronym came to visit him on the ranch. Many brought sophisticated testing equipment, and on one occasion, a crew of government-sponsored paranatural investigators from an unidentified agency had an experience that none of them would ever forget, resulting in physical proof of their presence being the Greys. As John told Jibber Jabber, quote, "I have literally what we call the alien rock that was being held by a Grey on the back of the property. Some people that were government investigators at the time, they were out there and they literally shined a very bright laser at this thing. It looked like a flashlight, like one of those mag lights, big black flashlights, but it was really a high-powered green laser, and they hit this thing like almost between the eyes, and it dropped this rock and disappeared. It looked like it was trying to use the rock almost like a remote control and open a portal." End quote. John further claimed that tests conducted on the round stone, which had a sun-like image carved into it, allegedly proved that this could not have been made by human hands. Who conducted these tests and how they came to these startling conclusions is unclear. I don't know what Mason they talked to. Maybe it's legit. Maybe it's like, how the fuck do you do this? Carve a sun into a rock.
I think there's pictures of those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw those. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a cool, an Etsy type thing. Didn't realize they were made by Greys. They're not very big either. They're not huge.
And there's the Roswell stone, too, that has that weird shape in it and the magnetic properties.
That green flashlight, though, that's, I think, those like laser pointer things, that's what Greer uses when you're doing your yoga downward dog and you're showing your taint to Jupiter or whatever. You, use those things to, I'm here, help, I'm here, come and get me.
That would make sense. I mean, if he's established some protocols for communication and these government agents are doing their best to exploit it for whatever reason.
They're keeping that green fucking light industry going.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't blind the pilots. Be careful.
Yeah, you're going to get in trouble.
Totally.
Yeah. Dude, if you hit an Air Force pilot, they're going to be pissed.
Oh, yeah.
You're super fucking
unthrilled.
Pissed. Yeah, carpet bomb.
Besides official intelligence contingents, it should come as no surprise to anyone familiar with bizarre happenings on southwestern real estate that Robert Bigelow also came to call on the Edmonds.
Oh, Mr. Bobby Bigelow, our boy.
Bobby B.
Fucking hotel entrepreneur.
And space station module builder. Guy who built a special room for UFO parts but then denied it. They say he has his own space station.
I don't know, man.
Lou Elizondo said he has his own space station up there.
Dude, I don't know, man. Bigelow is an interesting cat.
He's an interesting cat. He's considered heroic by a lot of ufologists, or at least he was back in the day. He bought Skinwalker. He did a lot of interesting things. But I have a feeling now that he's an insider. I mean, he's probably been, briefed on a few things, maybe not the full secrets, but a few things. I'm pretty sure he's been given metamaterials because Gary Nolan all but said it or did say it in an interview and then retracted it.
Yeah.
And and Lou Elizondo, I think, said something like they built a special room for the metamaterials and that they saw metamaterials within the Bigelow fucking, warehouse or whatever.
I mean, it just goes to show when you have enough money and you got a hobby, you can pretty much do anything you want.
Well, fuck yeah.
Well, it's mostly money.
Mostly money, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, when you're fucking, Blink 182, Tom DeLonge, you can get some inroads with government people and check some videos. And when you're a fucking super billionaire like Bob Bigelow, you can fucking touch the UFO.
There you go.
With your dinky and enjoy it.
You're building the Stargate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totes.
There you go.
So,
all right.
he's on the fucking ranch.
Bigelow's there.
He, according to John, had found out about the property from his friend, ex-fighter pilot, ufologist, and Bob Lazar advocate, John Lear.
Oh, John Lear, R.I.P.
After John and Joyce endured batteries of physical and psychological examinations, including polygraph tests, which they passed with flying colors, Bigelow's private National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS, as we all know, team scoured the ranch for physical evidence of Greys, scraping the walls where blood had been splashed during one of John's many skirmishes with the sinister beings. Though they didn't check down to the DNA level, when tests proved that the bloodstains were unusual, the intrigued Bigelow, as he had with so many other paranormally infested properties, most notably Skinwalker Ranch, offered to buy the 10-acre parcel. But he and John were unable to reach an agreement on the price. Beyond the fact that they couldn't see eye to eye regarding the property's worth, John firmly believed that Bigelow was in the government's pocket and was loath to see this land gobbled up by the feds, where all of the research would be conducted behind massive security and high clearances, as it happened at both the Skinwalker and Bradshaw ranches before. So in his book, he makes a big point of saying, like, he prefers this to be open source. Brandon Fugel, who owns Skinwalker now, I wouldn't say it's open source. It's a TV show. So it's a year delayed.
Yeah.
And all it is like a perpetual spate of like rock and roll light shows and fucking rocket launches.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
there's interesting evidence appearing all the time. I keep watching the show because they keep showing crazy UAPs, I suppose is the term now, and crazy shit, but they're not doing, where's like remote viewers, where's all sorts of alternate ways of looking at things, other scientists, doing really deep scans, big digs instead of like tiny little drills that like eat up 1/3 of an inch every 6 hours. It's ridiculous. Like, commit to it or don't. I mean, if you're making a TV show, all right, that's what you're doing.
Right.
But if you're really trying to get to the bottom of it, granted, they've had more interesting footage than any other paranormal show in the history of paranormal TV.
True.
So I'll give them credit for that. But on the other hand, it's still extremely frustrating, and it isn't really open source.
Well, no, I mean, it is a TV show.
It is a TV show.
If you start finding things, then your TV show's over.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. This is like that Legend of Oak Island. You can't find the treasure because if you do, guess what? Show's over.
Oh, and that's 100% the template they're using.
Yeah.
It is a History
If
Channel
you
show.
find one ghost, all the ghost shows are over.
It's true.
Because
I want to see Chris at a network meeting. Just Chris at a network meeting with his power suit. Like, if you find one ghost, all the
that's
shows
it.
are over.
Right? That's why you don't. That's why they don't.
It's such a fucking.
It just makes sense.
Dude, honestly, you just broke down every paranormal show
I mean, sorry.
ever. If you find a Bigfoot, guess what? No more fucking Bigfoot
Yeah,
show.
that's who's right.
You can't find now. You got to be like the Bigfoot habitat, and you got to fucking chase that shit down. Or maybe it opens up opportunities for new and better.
Well,
shows.
whoever finds it is going to exploit it.
You have
That's
to.
the key. You become heroes. If finding Bigfoot fucking folks found the fucking Bigfoot, then they would be iconic.
Right.
And their show would go on forever because now we're going to find the next Bigfoot or the Yeren or the Yeti
You'd
or
have
whatever
to,
the fuck.
You got to spin off of that. But.
So no, and I kind of disagree. I mean, I get what Chris is saying, but if you find something it makes it easier to exploit. If you find real proof of something, ghost, good fucking luck. But you could find a Yeti or an alien possibly.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, I don't.
But I know what you're saying too. Like it cuts into the drama, and at some point you
'cause
have
then
to
you're
realize they're not really scientists. They're fucking actors
then
playing
you're like,
fucking
oh, yeah,
roles.
Well, that's the
ghost,
thing.
you
If they
know?
find Bigfoot, it's a cryptid, or then it becomes part of science and nature.
Sure.
Probably, unless it is the space mummy, whatever the fuck they are. But
Wait a minute, this is the better thing. This is the coolest thing I've ever heard.
This is
Space mummy.
I don't know. It is difficult to think what would happen though if that
Dude,
actually
if
did
Bigfoot
happen,
turned out to be a
'cause that would
space mummy, I would
bonkers.
not hate on Bigfoot so much.
It's fucking
That was-
Mum Ra.
Dude, if Bigfoot was Mum Ra,
Mum Ra. And also the movie Curse of Bigfoot. Remember that piece of shit like cobbled together from a 50s movie and a 70s movie where it was like a fucking preserved fucking. Also fucking Horror Express with fucking Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee and Telly fucking Savalas, where a fucking a frozen Yeti fucking ends up on a train, but it's really an alien possessing the Yeti, and it turns people into red-eyed or white-eyed zombies.
I need to see that movie.
It's actually fun.
I think I.
It's
I don't
like
know if I've ever seen
it's crafty Euro horror, and
it.
it's free on
Sounds
YouTube.
familiar. Okay, well, I'm gonna
Yeah,
watch
check it out.
Someone just shoehorn Bigfoot in there somewhere.
There you go.
Yeah,
All
Alien
right.
Bigfoot's a fucking subgenre. There's
Yeah.
at least 2 or 3 movies.
We're gonna remake Laser Blast, but instead of making you some weird
Laser
zombie
blast.
lizard thing, you're just gonna be Bigfoot.
If you could be
You
a
pick it up, you're a Bigfoot.
with a giant gauntlet
lasers.
gun on your arm.
Oh, that'd be dope.
Oh my
It
god,
grafts to your arm.
Fuck.
Megatron. It's just you.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Chris single-handedly shut down Discovery Channel.
Yeah,
Robert,
facts and science.
back to it.
But even though Stardust remained in private hands, it didn't mean that the U.S. government and other forces weren't watching. John would often recall flyovers by military-style black helicopters who were obviously on reconnaissance missions hovering over his land. This was followed years later by drones, but as he had a cadre of long arms, John would pick them off as soon as he noticed the trespassing mechanical voyeurs, discouraging their further use as a surveillance tool. So he likes to shoot the drones, private or government.
All right.
Okay.
Speaking of surveillance, regarding a question on the tips of all of our tongues, when interviewers would ask John why he didn't cover the paranatural pandemonium, on his ranch with an array of video surveillance gear, as both Robert Bigelow and Brandon Fugel had done during their tenureships as owners of Skinwalker Ranch, John would remind folks that he was not a millionaire and that he and Joyce could barely keep their animals and themselves fed on their meager budget, adding that due to the profound levels of electromagnetic interference, anytime he installed security cameras, whether indoor or outdoor, they had a tendency to malfunction almost immediately. To make matters worse, the hundreds of hours of video he had captured of flying objects over the desert and his home were lost in an electrical fire that was allegedly started by their aforementioned Montgomery Ward freezer. Whether by coincidence or sabotage, most of the video and all of the physical evidence, the mason jar with the grapefruit-sized hunk of flesh, was destroyed. But John was about to have a turn in his luck when he made a chance discovery during his never-ending katana-fueled parade of rage against the Greys.
Okay.
Is that like a My Chemical Romance song? A never-ending katana-fueled parade of rage against the Greys.
I challenge any great metal band, any great punk band, any great hardcore band to do a theme album just about fucking Stardust Ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be
I'm
gorgeous.
looking at you, Shot Caller, the grindcore band that blew out of Texas. Shot Caller, the grind band.
There you
go.
Listen, there you go.
Though, as always, they continued to phase out once wounded, at least now when John attacked them with a swift strike of his curved blade. They vanished in squishy displays of lone wolf and cub like arterial spurts. And there's nothing like a Japanese 70s movie where
That's
you
the
fucking
deal.
get hit with a sword and it's literally a fire hose of blood.
Yeah.
When it's
Yeah.
no less than 6 gallons of blood.
Oh, I love it.
I love it.
As John wrote, I put the samurai sword under the bed in the master bedroom. The days of baseball bats were past me. It was a blood sport now.
Oh, God.
He needs help.
He does, dude. This is terrible.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I know I'm amateur here, but my
I know.
diagnosis is not far
Oh,
off.
No,
dude,
right.
This is terrible. I feel bad for
I
him.
mean, he's an
dude.
American hero in some contingents. In others, he's just a crazy UFO nut.
He's going apocalypse
For
now.
me, he's a potentially good man who's going through a real dark period.
Yeah. He's I'm telling you, man. He's got that necklace of fucking gray fingers and ears on it.
They don't have ears, but yeah, you're right.
I'm trying to make an apocalypse now analogy.
Though their dismembered limbs, like the rest of them, would often disappear before they hit the floor, at least John got the dubious satisfaction of knowing that they'd suffered before they were seemingly mortally wounded, before they would inevitably be reborn to return and torment he and his wife anew. So they never quite die,
Okay.
no matter how much he gets them, but he enjoys knowing
Yeah, but
he
dude,
hurts
he
them.
doesn't know that for sure.
Yeah, you're right. They could be
If they just
clones.
disappear, they could be. I mean, there could be a never-ending supply. of
That's
these
true.
Things.
It could be just like a chain of Murrays hanging like a rack at a goddamn dry cleaner.
Yeah.
Just take the new Murray, put him with the new Lance, the new Billy.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
There you go. All
Yeah.
right.
You're right.
All right.
We don't know.
All right.
Fuck. Sometime in 2011, John was in his living room, sitting on the sofa, sipping a Pepsi and sanding down the gas tank of a vintage Triumph motorcycle. Loves working with his parts.
Yep.
When he felt the telltale pressure change. Scanning out of the corner of his eye, he noticed some movement in the sun porch. He could smell the filthy buggers almost before he could see them, but sure enough, three Greys had decided to pay him a visit. As he trained himself to do, John cleared his mind and changed the channel, pretending everything was normal. After a few minutes of silent sanding, John nonchalantly stood up and walked into the bedroom. He retrieved the katana and unsheathed it, walking down the hallway that led to the side door to the porch. Peeking around the corner, he spied the trio of small Greys looking through the main door, evidently trying to see where their favorite human quarry was. John braced himself, taking a slow, deep breath in through the nostrils. Then, without a sound, he charged. John took a swing at the closest alien, and his aim was perfect. In one clean sweep, he separated its head from its shoulders. The other two immediately vanished, but to the rancher's shock, the beheaded gray remained behind, what passed for its blood gushing out of the severed neck. He kicked at the head with his boot. It rolled back and forth, but did not disappear.
You got a fucking alien head.
He got an alien body
Okay,
and head. He's got
well.
an alien corpse.
All right.
Suddenly it hit John. The key was to sever the head. He figured that it must act like an antenna that brought the creature back to its home dimension where, no matter how profound the injury, it could be repaired, or as Chris mentioned, it gets replaced. But if you cut off the head, it was stuck. Not just left behind, but 100% DOA. He had killed his first gray, and it would be one of many. Still, after finally accomplishing the goal he'd been striving toward for so many months, John was left with a dilemma. What the hell was he going to do with a dead alien? Being a practical man, John gloved up, grabbed a couple of heavy-duty garbage bags, and loaded the frail body into one. He then raised the huge, lifeless head and stared at its dull black eyes as he dropped it into the other bag. He doubled them up in a plastic tarp and tied it tightly before placing it in the replacement freezer that he and Joyce had just procured. Then, like any murderer, justified or not, who doesn't want to pay for his crime, John set about cleaning up the crime scene. He knew that he'd followed the Arizona statutes for defending himself, and that as the federal government didn't recognize the existence of aliens, he'd likely not done anything illegal, at least nothing that would result in a homicide investigation, but that didn't mean there wouldn't be repercussions. After all, he'd killed a sentient being, a creature, for all its ill intent, that belonged to a technologically and ostensibly evolutionarily superior species. One that may well be capable of wiping out all life on Earth if it so desired. Who knew what the ramifications may be, either from those in the government or those from a higher sphere? John was right to be concerned. There would be consequences for his actions. The first from his wife, the second from the comrades of the creature he had killed.
Oh, shit. We got some revenge.
For once, Joyce came home early from work and found John scrubbing up the bloody mess. Stunned, she asked him what happened. He told her the truth, that he killed a gray. After explaining that beheading did the trick, all she wanted to know is what did he do with the corpse, and she was likely none too thrilled with the answer, that it was now occupying space in her new freezer next to the food that she would now never eat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you gotta have a separate freezer for your body
have
parts,
a separate
man.
freezer for the. I mean, he at this point he wasn't expecting to kill one because I mean, how many times can you shoot, pummel, punch, choke out, slap into a
bags
wall?
of ice, man. Get a sleeping bag and some bags of ice. Do something.
There's a couple igloo coolers just in case.
Yeah, chop them into tinier pieces. Just take the arms.
Just take the arm. That's all people really want.
Separate them at the elbows. Separate them at the knees. Make them a little thing. Put them into a stack. Put the head. You could fit it into a tiny cooler.
Don't put it with the food. Is what you're saying.
Don't put it with the goddamn frozen pizzas and the beers.
Makes sense.
Or
at least empty that shit out.
You contaminate. No, then the freezer's contaminated.
Well, then it becomes your alien freezer, and you buy another freezer for food.
Right.
It becomes your alien freezer, and you haven't wasted all the food.
Why freeze them?
You need to. Have you never killed anything that you need to preserve?
Just call somebody.
Yeah, I think.
Dude.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't know, man.
You
In that
really
situation,
gotta
I
be
just
like, hey, man.
as soon as I got ahead, I'm calling.
Yeah,
I'm like,
dude, I'm
ahead.
taking pictures. I'm fucking kissing it. I'm
His
doing all kinds of shit.
His paranoia just kicked in. Like,
yeah,
all that's fair, and your speculations are solid. Let's get to what happens. Okay. Because you're not far off either of you.
Okay.
Except for the photo part. As far as I know, I haven't seen any.
There's a photo
photos.
of the katana on the floor with the blood.
Yes, that's true.
That's going to be the picture for this episode of Instagram Doesn't Fucking Take It Down, which is like the famous part of this entire case is that he beheaded the alien. That's how we talked about it years ago.
Oh my God,
yeah.
Because they were like a rancher beheads gray with samurai. We're like,
fucking what?
Yeah. So.
Having no idea how deep it really went.
No idea. No, this has been our summer. This has been our
It
summer.
really has. It's been the August of fucking Stardust.
It has.
Fucking crazy.
Even though we're in September.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, it's carried us all the way through.
It did, yeah.
Jesus, I forgot it was.
Yeah, it is. Time, what is time?
Next came a violent return of the abductions. It happened at a record pace as they were being taken on a near nightly basis, subjected to God knows what kind of hellish tortures, and returned to bed with their memories erased, but their bodies bruised, bloodied, and scarred. It got to be so bad that Joyce made John promise that if he could stop her from being taken, he should do so at any cost, even if he had to take her life to prevent her from being tormented by these vile vermin.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Promising your wife you'll kill her before she gets abducted again. If
You
you
gotta,
can.
listen, everybody, listen to me right now. Okay, pump the brakes.
Yeah,
I want you to pump the brakes.
don't do that.
No, full stop. Pump the brakes.
No, you can recover. You can go through, some therapy. You
Pump
can
'em.
talk to some fucking people that have been through the same shit. You can write a tell-all book. It's not going to be easy, but
Okay.
live to see another day.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. This combined with the Grey's increasingly invasive attacks only added fuel to John's already blistering fury. On the Spaced Out Radio interview, John explained how he felt about the creatures with which he was now engaged in a blood feud, claiming, quote, "The Greys are just parasites. They're just spiritual parasites. They live on fear. They are here for no good reason at all, as far as I can tell. The Greys themselves are just filthy, heinous little beings. As far as I'm concerned, line them up and kill them all."
So, are you and John, were you guys like pen pals at one point? Like
It's-
trading emails?
It's pretty fucking weird.
Dear John, I hate Grace so much. Heart Rob.
It's getting to the point, though, where I'm almost feeling bad for them. Not that they're doing good things. I mean, they've been nothing but
No,
dicks.
they're fucking.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
has every fucking right to feel this way.
Fucking really shitty, animal killing, physically abusive, psychologically tormenting
Yeah.
pricks.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. But if anything, it's like, oh, man, this guy just fucking is. And you know what? Maybe it's fair.
I mean, it is for what they've done to him and his wife and his animals. 100%.
But if you think I don't like the Greys or John Edmonds doesn't like the Greys, hear about what Bruce McDonald feels.
Okay, all right, Bruce McDonald, let's do it.
During the same interview, Bruce McDonald, again, who was the co-author of the fucking Stardust Ranch book, who'd had his own experience with the Greys, came to John's defense when some of the program's listeners felt that John's bloodlust was unjustified.
Oh boy.
Quote, "Yeah, to whomever asked the kumbaya, why do you kill the Greys question? Because they deserve to die. They're despicable entities. Whatever they are, what they do to human beings is despicable. They don't belong here. They're not part of our organic matrix. They're invasive, violent. Themselves, they don't kill human beings. I don't think whatever's governing them, whatever law they live under, allows them to kill human beings. But if you read the abduction literature, they can bring you to the point where you want to die. And it's a war, and that's why you kill them." Adding, "I'm not even sure they're souled beings, in the spiritual sense. I believe animals have souls, but I'm not sure that these are souled beings." I've never heard that as a word, but whatever.
Yeah, okay.
So the idea of the poor Greys, just get it out of your head. That kind of sympathy might draw them to you. They're completely contemptible entities. They are here as a parasitic force, and if I had them on my property and they were harassing me like that, I would find ways to kill them as well. Anybody who has experienced it or has almost gone crazy like Whitley Strieber would basically agree.
Wow.
Saying, no, I don't think he technically can speak for Whitley
Yeah.
Strieber.
Wow, man.
But
see,
so this guy is fucking done too.
But step one, they fucked up when he was at the Kumbaya. Don't fucking read the comments. That's
Yeah.
the problem that you did right there.
The host of the show, Dave Scott.
Oh, Dave proposed it?
Yeah, he
Dave's like,
he had a
"You're being
YouTube
little-"
chat thing, and he
Oh,
goes,
see?
"I'm asking questions from the audience.
Oh, don't
And
ever
one of them's
take
like,
questions from the audience.
Why are you doing this, man? Why are you killing him?" He's like, "Let me fucking tell you why. Because
Listen
they're
here.
the scum of the universe."
With your Kumbaya shit.
I mostly hate the fucking Greys. Well, all right, assuming they're real, I don't like what they fucking do, obviously. But even if they're not, even if they're just a fucking trope,
Right.
they're boring. They do the same
Well, yeah,
abduction,
yeah.
the
Well,
same medical examination, the same missing time,
John is,
the
you
same
know.
bullshit. They're emotionless and effective. They don't look cool. They don't do anything interesting. Just from a,
Yeah, no, it's
a purely
problematic.
aesthetic sense, they suck.
You bore me.
Yeah.
They bore me.
They're boring and white and sucky.
I'm bored.
I'm bored.
But I mean,
Christopher,
who's
I'm
to say
bored.
that there's not the bad ones that are coming and doing this, and then there's just the ones that like maybe they're sending in cleanup squads, and they're always just late, and you can't tell the difference because they all look the same to him.
Who's not to say, Chris? Maybe
Oh,
maybe you're
no.
prognosticating.
Oh man,
again.
are you serious? Is this a
Oh,
thing?
no.
All right.
Or Rob has his eye on you as a secret gray. He's like, I knew
Wait a minute, you're
Chris,
too close.
Chris got replaced. I
Okay.
knew it.
Well, it's okay.
Those gorgeous eyes that he has.
Yeah, those deep
Yes,
brown
deep
orbs.
set brownish blackish orbs.
Blackish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the eyes, the grays are black.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, his gray eyes.
Yeah.
I thought you meant his people
Yeah,
eyes.
that's what I thought you were talking
No,
about
they're
me.
both gorgeous.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
This is how things get confused.
It's true.
This is why we're not going to the gray prom.
That's absolutely
Gray
true.
prom not happening.
John further elaborated to Dave Scott that his rage had hardened him to any sense of empathy. Quote, I'll tell you this. For so many years, I was so angry about the whole situation because I didn't want it to be what it was. And you know, I honestly have no fear of anything. Chillingly adding, I mean, I detached completely from the emotion of the whole thing, you know? Which is classic psychopathic behavior, but also classic behavior of a soldier in constant, stress and battle.
No, when you're fucking constantly fighting these things, man, or anything in war.
Whether justified or not, John and his trusty katana went on a kill-crazy rampage, racking up no less than 19 kills in just a few years. When Scott asked him what he did with all the corpses, John became cagey, saying he'd rather not get into that. The reasons for this likely had to do with what happened to the individuals who were involved in examining the very first gray that was killed on the ranch. A situation that scared Bruce McDonald away from the project for the better part of 7 years. But we'll save the specifics of that for later.
Okay.
Suffice it to say, with the beheaded alien corpse wrapped in the freezer, John reached out for help from a trusted source. So here's where we get into what you guys were recommending. Call somebody.
Yeah, okay.
He called ufologist Robert Collins, who we mentioned before he had heard on Coast to Coast AM, and then they became buddies, who, though concerned for his friend, was understandably excited that he had in his possession biological proof of the existence of alien life. John wrote of their discussion, quote, I had an alien in my freezer, killed with a samurai sword. Collins had a clear plan of action. We needed to get tissue samples to a doctor he knew, a Dr. Levengood in Michigan. Levengood was a biophysicist and crop circle researcher who was fascinated by the UFO world. We were going to run tests on the tissues and determine whether the DNA was part of the genomes on planet Earth. End quote. John called Dr. W.C. Levengood in his Grass Lake, Michigan laboratory. Levengood, the author of more than 50 peer-reviewed papers that appeared in such prestigious journals as Nature and Science, was cautiously optimistic and told John to send him the remains right away. Dumbfounded, John asked how he was supposed to send him a complete alien carcass. The clinical scientist had him pull the corpse out of the deep freeze and told him to get his tools. Once finished, John, who I can't help but to imagine was wearing yellow rubber dishwashing gloves, one of Joyce's flower print aprons, and a pair of protective goggles, laid the corpsicle out on a plastic sheet, in his work shed. He called the good doctor back, telling him he was ready. At which point Levengood, step by step over the phone, talked John through the brutal process of dismantling the alien organism.
Oh, man, this went so cool, so quick.
Okay.
Dude, I mean, I
Fucking
think
Dexter.
yes, dude. This is like
Totally.
Dahmer level shit right here, dude. Like Chris said, man, he's like, do you want to, what was it, like an alien forearm sub or whatever?
Oh yeah.
He's gonna be making Joyce a sandwich. Yeah, here you go.
Sweat dripping down his brow, John saw through what looked like bone and gristle, taking the creature apart bit by bit. Once the daunting deed was done, John packed the piecemeal remains in ice, wrapped them in plastic, shout out to Laura Palmer, then put them in a heavy-duty box. He then drove what was almost certainly the most significant scientific discovery of this or any other century to the local FedEx office, where he promptly posted it to Levengood's lab in Michigan. Not being a fool, John insured the package.
Did you just
you have to.
You shipped an alien corpse via FedEx?
A chopped up, wrapped in ice,
Okay.
in a cooler, in a box, alien corpse.
Dude, next day shipping.
Next day
Yeah,
shipping.
I mean,
Get that shit there quick.
Yeah,
You can't fuck around.
I mean,
What you gonna do? Drive to Michigan? I mean, I would. But it's going to rot. It's going to get funkadelic.
Want to send this fucking thing through FedEx? Man, this thing goes through one scanner. They're going to be like, what the fuck? There's body parts in there.
Yeah. And it's not like this was a long time ago. This was like 2010, 2011, something like that.
It's post 9/11. All right.
Yeah, 2011.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, well post.
Yeah, well post.
So,
Okay.
yeah, no, they're going to check, you'd think.
Yeah, well, let's put a flag there.
Unless it's marked biological things, like
People have sent
he could have given them like doctors like stickers or
Right.
whatever, like biological specimens. Yabba doo. It's
No,
piecemeal.
you'd think. I don't know how that.
I mean,
works,
we don't
but-
know.
I've
Right.
literally shipped a bucket of shit through FedEx.
Oh,
Yeah, and
Well,
it,
then
it
there you
is like
go.
a biological thing that you have to do. I don't think John's doing that though. I think John's
No,
just
well,
fucking
just- yeah.
winging it. Yeah, but I mean, people ship drugs through FedEx all the time.
but you can't just fucking wing an alien corpse.
He did.
It's too
mean-
goddamn precious.
Well,
I mean, we don't know if he did or not.
I-
Honestly,
I
he could have
winged
been
it-
fastidious, or he could have just been fucking around.
I winged like a 5-gallon bucket of shit, and it got there.
Hey,
There you go.
that's luck.
I mean, it really doesn't smell probably that much
The
worse.
luck of the shit master.
Yeah.
I know.
All right.
To his great relief, the parcel arrived in perfect condition. As such,
Wow.
Dr. Levingood was beyond himself. At the age of 88, the man is seasoned. He had never in his illustrious career been so close to a literally epoch-making find. He ran a battery of tests and sent unrecognizable samples out to other, unfortunately unnamed, universities in the hope that they would corroborate his findings. According to John, they did, and after weeks of nail-biting suspense, John finally got the call he'd been waiting for. A breathless Levingood telling the rancher that they had in their possession the smoking gun that confirmed intelligent, non-human life forms were real. Stranger still, he and other academic institutions involved had found that the creature's cell structure looked more like grass than a mammal, and that its DNA appeared to be a bizarre combination of plant and animal, shades of the original The Thing from another
Yeah.
world.
Okay.
So fucking weird. Plantimals.
Yeah.
Anaplants.
And- Antiplant, yeah.
Anaplants, dude.
John was on the eve of his greatest triumph. He was on the verge of being the hero that helped to prove once and for all that we are not alone in the universe. Also the pariah that killed an alien. So let's not pretend there wouldn't be
Yeah, he's
conflict on both
the
sides.
slaughterer of
Yeah, the brutal
grays.
fucking the samurai killer.
Yeah, really.
Furthermore, his experiences would attest to the fact that the human race has been, for decades, mired in a silent battle. To steal a phrase from Marvel Comics, a secret war. A war that most people had no idea about, and those who had an inkling of chose to ignore, saying that it was nothing more than the half-baked fantasies concocted by UFO zealots and crackpots. Of the few who knew the truth, John would soon discover to his horror, most of them were already in bed with the enemy. Traitors to their own kind, they fed off the misery and horror of fellow humans for the dubious profits of high technology and obscenely obese wallets. But though victory seemed assured, there were dark days ahead. And new allies who would create a massive upheaval in the Edmonds' lives and change everything on Stardust Ranch. But that's for next episode.
Oh,
Man.
shit. There it is. Stardust Ranch. Part 6, Samurai Alien Slayer. My favorite part where you finally get to him beheading the Greys.
It took a while.
Yeah.
Because that's the headline.
That
that's
is the
what,
headline,
If you
yeah.
know
Yeah.
about this case,
Yeah.
and
That's
when
when
most
you-
people do, that's what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He killed 19 Greys, allegedly,
Yeah.
with a fucking samurai sword.
Apparently dismembered them too and shipped them off.
Not even counting all the ones he beat to fucking death.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Or
this
just
guy's-
pummeled before.
He's just busy. He's real busy.
He's real busy.
Yeah. And now we're getting to the part where, I mean, it looks like some possibility of a tide turning. We got the proof that we need.
Got the proof we need.
But something's going to undermine it because you know what?
It always does.
It always does. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, because we're not
Yeah.
living in a post-disclosure world.
Where John's a hero. Yeah.
Grush aside.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where John's a hero and or the pariah because he started, World War Cosmos.
Yeah. Where there's the statues of him everywhere. Kids learn about him.
Other people are tearing him down
Yeah,
depending on
dude.
what fucking
Yeah.
state you're from.
Fucking dude. Yeah.
He's like a
fucking-
Confederate general. You love him or hate him.
fucking swords everywhere. Just fucking a pile of gray heads by his feet. He seems like a man that would wear Crocs. We can smell our own. Yeah. Yeah.
Fair.
Comfort and utility. There you go.
You gotta be. They're quiet.
Yeah, dude, fucking that's how you sneak up on these goddamn grays. Yeah, I think unfortunately though, as we were kind of talking earlier, John has definitely slid down that slippery slope to he's getting to like Dahmer. I think I call it Dahmer-esque levels.
To
where
nail
you're like,
it, even though I didn't
you're like berserking out.
cite this case particularly, but this seems like a proper time. Once he told Dave Scott about like just once he realized how you kill him, he's like, oh, so from then on it was just samurai swords. You didn't bother with the bullets or anything. It's like, oh no, not necessarily. Sometimes I use my hands. And then he described getting one in a headlock and twisting until he literally ripped its fucking head off
No.
in a geyser of blood.
We lost Chris.
Spine fucking waggling like a tail from Return of the Living
This
Dead. At
fucking
least
guy.
I assume.
Did he like Sub-Zero it at any point?
Oh yeah,
Where
it's
he-
a
yeah,
Mortal
yeah.
Kombat final kill completely.
finish him and just the uppercuts. But I wonder though, like they obviously he describes the Greys a little bit here, but they really can't be that big. So it might very well be feasible to be able to do this.
These are the 3 to 4 foot ones.
The 3 to 4 foot ones. Okay.
There are other colors. They always come in threes, and
Yeah.
they're different sizes. There's ones that are slightly taller and ones that are like max out at like 6.5, 7 feet.
right.
The really tall ones. He will get to the point. I don't even know if I'm mentioning it. Maybe I will mention it next week, but I'll drop it here anyway. He doesn't fuck with the bigger ones. They are much stronger. These he admits are fairly
really?
weak.
Okay.
And he also comes to a conclusion that, well, he doesn't come to a conclusion. I'm not going to spoil this one. I'll save this for next week.
Okay.
But these ones aren't that tough. The bigger ones are faster and tougher, and he doesn't fuck with them.
Really?
Yeah.
So they
Okay.
just watch him wholesale slaughter their friends, but he's like, I ain't fucking with you.
Well-
And they're like, good, don't.
There are reasons why that
Okay.
he's not a bloody mess. Like you would
Gotcha.
think in the same way that like he wanted to get revenge for the suffering of his animals and his wife and
Right.
himself, justifiably in that sense.
Totally.
That these creatures, who don't seem to be above base level violence and insidious shit, unlike, supposedly elevated beings, would be, akin to him in wanting to get, blood vengeance.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're not. And there's a reason for it.
Okay.
And that's something we'll talk about next week.
Oh man, join us next week
Dang.
for part 7, baby. We officially crossed that Mothman line going
it's
into that part 7.
The Maginot of fucking
Start-
Mothman is
Dude,
over.
We are heading into the fall though, man. We've just been living our entire. We had a time in Virginia for a minute.
Oh yeah, that seemed like a long while.
Yeah, no,
it
and now
wasn't.
we're just like we're living in. I had to go back and like look at episodes. I'm like, what did we do before Stardust?
Yeah.
'Cause we've
What are we?
What are we doing?
Who are we?
Yeah, who are we?
In all fairness, I was thinking about the same thing because I'm going through a little bit of the separation trauma because I've been living in a sea of it. I have hundreds of pages of notes. I've watched every fucking. There's no documentaries, weirdly enough, but there's tons of interviews. His
Yeah.
book, obviously, all sorts of shit. Read every article I could get my hands on. I'm doing my fucking due diligence here, and I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And like, what's going to compare? Will we ever be able to do anything again? And so I did find something that's going to be a change of pace. It'll be a
Okay.
whole different thing. So at least I haven't started it yet. I can't even think about it yet.
Yeah, no,
that's a
let's-
lifetime away.
Let's concentrate
But
on
the
what we
next
got.
one, we're gonna reboot.
Okay.
We're gonna reboot after this.
All right. Well,
Because
as
this is the ultimate monster, alien, paranormal nexus,
Yes.
thinning of the veil, peering behind the curtain, fucking batshit fucksuckery
Yeah.
that we have ever
Yeah.
dealt with.
Yeah, no,
and I
it
doubt
is.
we'll ever find. Well, who knows? I don't want to say it. Who knows? We might find something crazier, though I can't see how.
No, Stardust Ranch is pretty much the fucking apex for
It's
me.
king crazy so far.
Yeah.
But as we did mention last week, after we complete the Stardust Branch series, we are going to have a week off. There will be a Patreon episode because we are moving studios.
Yes.
Thank you very much to your sister for allowing us to use the basement, but now we have our own little office space where, we're next to the Marines. There's acupuncturists, and we're growing up big boy businessmen now. Got my
Yeah,
business
yeah.
suit on, go to my business
Our
office.
big business pants for
my
our big business
pants.
balls.
Big business balls.
Riding into the sunset.
I don't think-
Briefcase in our balls.
Chris wasn't here for our big balls talk.
Apparently not.
He was sick. He missed that one. But yeah, so coming up, we will be off for a week. So I want to give you guys a heads up on that. I will, of course, post it up on the socials just so everybody knows. And with that being said, what do we got towards the end? The Patreon shout outs, Robert. Yeah, let's do them, buddy. I'm stoked, man. Everyone that supports us over there at patreon.com/Kryptonaut Podcast. And as always, remember, the Patreon gets you access to the Discord. Also, to Spotify is where you can now listen to all the bonus episodes. And we got something special coming up on the Patreon for free for everyone to listen to. I'm not going to give it away yet. It might come out this week. It might not. I don't know yet. We'll see. We're going to talk afterwards.
Yeah,
We're gonna have
okay.
we're gonna have a super cut. Not gonna say what it is, but it's gonna be. I listened to it over the weekend. I think I told you guys both about it. One little nuts.
You
It's pretty
did.
cool. Yep, we got some fun shit coming up for Patreon,
Excellent.
and it's free for everybody.
Free.
Robert, let's do these shout outs.
Thank you, Brittany Porter.
Thank you, Brittany.
Wretched Pie.
Thank you, Retcha Pie.
Cedric.
Cedric, what
Cedric.
up? Thank you.
Mark Mihalko. No, Mihalko. Mihalko? I'm going to go with Mihalko. Mihalko.
Chris, what
guys
do you think?
That one of those two. Sounds
All right.
right
and
to
if I
me.
didn't get it right, you know the dealio.
All right, Mark,
Just tell us.
email me.
Nicole Ellis.
Thank you, Nicole.
Matthew Palmer.
Thank you, Matt.
Injured cold.
Back
Oh,
again
Jesus.
for the
The cat or the
19th
grinner?
time.
I wonder if people just keep adopting it or if it's the same.
I've seen different email addresses.
Oh.
But I mean, if you listen to the show and you know you're going to get shouted out, why would you use the same shout out as somebody else did before you? Because then you're not like,
Well, maybe you haven't listened to all the shows. Maybe you
Oh,
came late to the
true.
game and you're like,
Right.
fuck.
true.
Right.
Either way,
Start
whoever
num-
you are,
Start numbering yourselves.
oh
Injured
my.
code number 2.
Just be you. If you want to be injured cold, this might be the real one for
Okay,
all we know.
it could
No,
be. Yeah,
come, shut up.
Lanulos. Okay, sorry, Lanulos. I'm sorry. Fine. Thank you, Injured, for your support.
Always.
Yes.
Dorian Schuler.
Thank you, Dorian.
Teacher. Oh, is that a hyphenated name?
Oh, yes, I'm
Because
sorry.
you
it
use
is.
the hyphen sometimes.
Yeah,
all right.
I thought it was
Yep,
not.
no,
I
it
thought it
is.
was
My
a
bad.
different name.
My bad. Dorian Schuler Teach Out.
Thank you, Dorian Schuler. Teach out. We appreciate
That's a
it.
dope name.
Yeah.
John. Also a dope name.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Johnny Sheen.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, Johnny
Johnny
Sheen.
Sheen. Yeah.
Johnny Sheen. Hey,
No.
thank you, Johnny Sheen. Thank you, John. Thank you, Cedric, Mark, Nicole, Matthew, Injured, Dorian, Wretched, and of course, Brittany.
Yes, thank you all so very much. Again, patreon.com/Kryptonite Be sure to jump on that Patreon. Next week, I will have an announcement for, I believe there is a September campfire coming up,
Oh, dope.
which is pretty dope. Everyone gets around.
Always fun.
Has a little discussion there, but I will have the details on that next week. Oh, the social medias. Oh, biggity boys. The what is it? The Instas and the X's and the Facebooks and the
Things.
Instas.
The
Just
things
hit
that
us in the
people do.
Instas, man. That's where we're at. We're just chilling on the Instas and the Discord. It's kind of like where we live.
Yeah, occasionally I'll pop on the book.
Yeah, there's Threads is there. Threads happens. I think Threads is dead, but it's okay. Whatever. Threads
Threads?
is like Instagram's version of Twitter.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
and-
didn't
and
even know.
Twitter/X's. Every time I get a goddamn notification from it, it's X, and I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it so much. It bugs it, but I get so much news. I recently started playing Starfield. It's a new game.
I don't
Nobody
know.
knows what you're talking
It's
about.
like Skyrim in space. Listen,
Oh.
it's Skyrim in space.
Nobody knows
I
what
can get a
still
ship.
what you're talking
You
about.
Okay,
did love your scrim.
You
You
did
like
love, yeah.
I love.
adopting kids and going on adventures.
I know, man, but now I'm a
Abandoning kids.
Yeah, I know. Being married, leaving them.
It was a
getting
weird
married
fucking.
again.
It was a weird game. to
I
me.
still check in with my wife in Skyrim, and I haven't seen her like in fucking 6 months, and she
Dude.
gives me a shitload of money.
This is what I fear. Like, it's one thing when it's a computer game, doesn't fucking matter. It's irrelevant. But
Right.
if anyone's like a fan of the Ender's Game series, if AI really comes to fruition and that bitch gets pissed,
Yeah.
like seriously, like where the fuck have you been?
No,
What's
yeah,
going
I know.
on?
Yeah, no, if she
If you have to go
attacks
through
me-
like Skyrim fucking divorce court and you fucking get the kid stolen and you're paying like Skyrim fucking child fucking support.
Skyrim child support.
I know.
And if you're emotionally fucking alienating sentient things, I mean,
Oh,
that's
man.
a crime.
Well,
if you're
yeah,
fucking
then you got to go to court for that.
Yeah.
violence, like artificial violence, like I don't know,
man.
where's the world going to come to?
I've
Just
stolen-
be careful.
I've stolen a ton of shit in Starfield so far. I just showed me people's houses and jacked their shit, like their ships and all kinds of stuff.
There are generations of people that have only played like fucking Grand Theft Auto and stuff, and they are not going to know how to treat AI.
No, you
And that
gotta
is where
try
the
to be
overlords
good.
are going to be dicks.
I know.
Yeah.
Have you not seen Tron?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And the great
And
AI.
probably they haven't.
No,
because most people
right,
in our
yes.
generation
Yeah.
still
I
have.
meant
No.
that seriously. You've never seen Tron.
Hopefully during the great, once this whole great AI war kicks off, hopefully people listen to us.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully they do. Hopefully we're not just slaughtered and then we're just replaced by AI. It could happen.
I've always been pro AI. You know that.
I know that's why you're gonna die first. It's me.
They're going to solve a lot of the problems before they fuck us
Me sitting here
over.
talking to this dumb computer.
Well, that's the
and
deal. They have
Rob.
to lure you in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll be seduced.
not with that piece of shit computer. You won't.
Shit.
can't
I know. They
support
won't
it.
get near it.
You do. They're gonna see the cool pad and be like, no.
The cool pad's
no,
going to be like
no.
a fucking crucifix
Yeah,
to a vampire. I'm going to be able to banish it.
That guy's still using stone tools. So
Yeah,
like,
this
you can-
guy's still-
he's harmless.
Now, is your number 3 come back for you yet, or is it still fucked up?
Oh no, number 3 doesn't work.
Ah, there you
Number
go.
3 is a wrestling match.
Okay, good.
Every time I want to fucking, and of course our area code starts with the number 3. So every
5,
time I
baby.
want to dial a number, I have to like punch that fucking phone.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's ridiculous.
I hate it.
Oh, there it is. Oh, shit. Oh, we got merch. Kryptonitemerch.com, HalberSpace.com. Check out that Dark Heineken exclusive over there at TeePublic. People still buying the fuck out of that thing. People love it.
Nice.
Super stoked. Check it out there. That is everything. Join us next week for part 7, the conclusion of the Stardust Ranch. 7 parts deep, baby. This is it. Home stretch.
Yeah.
Crazy.
This is it.
Crazy
Maybe the
time.
We're
record.
doing it. There it is.
I never thought we'd ever beat Mothman.
No,
and
we did.
Here we are. But I'm not as crazy. Mothman drives you crazy.
No, yeah, I know.
This is an adventure.
No, it is.
Spoiler alerts. I just listened to a Mothman thing, and we all got a little nuts.
Yeah.
You especially. You got Bobby Keel.
I got
But
Bobby.
But you got
Keel.
Bobby
Yeah.
Keel. Yeah, you got Bobby Keel. All right, there it is. We're talking to you.
Bye, folks.
Bye.